What we do here is go back.
We were all alive during the time of 2016. Especially now, we all wish we could go back to the time period and experience everything that happened at the time. But with all the positive sides of 2016, there were also the negative. What if there was a hoax, so sensationalized, so impacting on everyone and everything, leading various countries to respond in ways that contrasted to each other? What we're about to discuss led children to inflict harm onto themselves, and led so many parents to constantly worry about what their children get up to online. It left many children and parents paranoid, wondering if the inevitable danger would inflict them. What we're about to discuss had so many psychological, sadistic, and sick intentions behind it. It led to so many deaths internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the Blue Whale Challenge. In 2015, a Russian girl by the name of Rina Palenkova took this picture with the caption "Nearby" before committing suicide by train the next day. Her death was discussed in internet forums and groups, becoming mixed with scare stories and folklore. Further suicides were added to the group stories, and soon after, Russian journalist Galina Mursaliyeva first wrote about these death groups in an article published in a Russian newspaper, Novaya Gazeta, in April 2016. The article described the F-57 groups on Russian social media site VK, where she had claimed had incited 130 teenagers to commit suicide. Morsalieva's article was criticized at the time of its release for lacking any credible data and balance, with the 130 cases of suicide being cited particularly problematic in terms of credibility. The number was originally suggested by the father of one of the suicides. He had come to the number of 130 by looking through Russian media sources to look through children's suicides he believed to be associated with the online groups. He then produced a broker which indicated that foreign intelligence operatives were responsible for encouraging Russian children to commit suicide. After an investigation by Evgeny Berg, Morsilev soon was spotted saying that there had been in fact at least 200. However, there was still a problem. Upon all of this investigation, no one knew why Rina had committed suicide, and shortly after, her story began to merge with other teenagers who had also committed suicide. On Christmas, 12-year-old Angelina Davidova had committed suicide in the Russian city of Ryazan, and a little over a fortnight later, so did Diana Kuznetsova, another teenager from the same city. When the parents examined the online accounts left by the two girls, they found something that intrigued them. The two girls were part of similar online groups. In these groups, there were drawings of Rina Palenkova, the first girl to commit suicide, posts about suicide, and numerous mentions about blue whales. One question lurked: how did the game work? What led these young girls to commit suicide so suddenly? Let's investigate. Before we move any further, we should maybe talk about how the game worked. The game normally worked with a participant and an administrator. The administrators would normally set tasks for the participant to do over a 50-day period, each task being more and more bizarre as the days go by, eventually leading to the requirement of the participant to commit suicide. Any refusal to do so will result in a threat, such as threatening to kill your family or entertaining the fact that they have your IP address and whatnot. Russia, however, was not the only country of which this was happening. It was happening in various other countries too. Despite many news reports published in Bangladeshi media attempting to link suicides with the game, no case has ever been officially confirmed. In October 2017, Bangladesh Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan stated that the Bangladesh Telecommunication Regulatory Commission had been directed to investigate the Blue Whale game after reports of multiple suicides around the country. BTRC released a notice urging people to call a specific number if any web link or any information related to the Blue Whale game were to be found. Later that month, the Bangladeshi High Court ordered a 6-month ban on special nighttime internet packages provided by various mobile operators across the country in order to curb suicides resulting from the game. While Bangladesh mainly based their solution on the fact that nothing can happen to anyone if they're not using the internet, another decided to create a game of their own. Despite several news reports in Brazilian media linking to cases of child self-harm and suicide with blue whale and several ongoing investigations, none has ever been officially confirmed. In response to the game, a designer and a publicity agent from Sao Paulo created a movement called Baleia Rosa. This proceeded to become popular. It relied on the collaboration of hundreds of volunteers. The movement based itself on positive tasks that value life and combat depression. Also in Brazil, Sandro Sanfeliz created a movement called Capivara Amarela, which proposes to combat the blue whale and guide people who are seeking some kind of help. Participants are separated between challengers, who are people who seek help, and the healers, who are kind of godfathers to these people. School in southern Parana, in partnership with other education networks, also sought to reverse the situation by proposing another charity game, the Jonas Challenge. Other games in Brazil in response to the blue whale are Baleia Verde and Preguiça Azul. I would go into detail about other countries, but due to time constraints, that is something far too beyond my ability. I will, however, leave a link in the description leading to my sources, which goes into detail about how others responded. If you're interested, you can check it out. According to Wikipedia, from 2016 to 2018, 3 people were arrested. In 2016, Philip Budeikin, a 21-year-old former psychology student who was expelled from his university, claimed that he invented the game in 2013. He said the intention was to clean society by pushing people, of whom he deemed as having no value, to committing suicide. Although he originally attempted to claim his innocence by saying he was having fun, Budeikin was arrested and held in Kresty Prison, St. Petersburg, and in May 2016 he pled guilty to inciting at least 16 teenage girls to commit suicide. He was later convicted on 2 counts of inciting suicide of a minor. Commentators such as Benjamin Radford have pointed out that sensationalized stories in world news regarding the involvement of Budeikin have all linked back to just 2 Russian sources, with tabloid news outlets replicating the same information without elaboration. In June 2017, postman Ilya Sodorov was arrested in Moscow, also accused of setting up a blue whale group to encourage children to self-harm and ultimately commit suicide. He claimed to have persuaded 32 children to join his group and follow his command. In June 2018, Russian financial analyst Nikita Nearonov was arrested for allegedly masterminding the blue whale game. As a financial analyst, Nearonov has been described as a very smart computer expert who held a large amount of contempt for teenagers, believing that they were wicked and deserved to die. Hi, I'm currently editing the video and I just want to pop in here and let you know that I left some stuff out with Nearonov's arrest, because it was inappropriate and I didn't want to discuss something if I didn't know the meaning of my words. As always, you can find my sources somewhere in the description. If you want to look into Nearonov specifically, I suggest you read the Wikipedia or the one with his full name in the site's URL. Remember, it's all somewhere in the description. You can read of your own accord if you're intrigued. Police reports claim that Nearonov's involvement in the blue whale game was his hobby, and for the next 2 years, the blue whale game went into hiding, and it seemed as though everything was over. Similar games came and went, and the panic seemed to have died down. It really did seem like everything was over, until the blue whale game came back, this time weaker than ever. Sometime in recent 2020, accounts by the name of Jonathan Galindo were going around on Twitter, Instagram and Discord. While many of them were trolls, few of them were attempting to bring back the blue whale game. They would DM you and try to get you to play their game. Now essentially, something like this had already occurred twice, and some would say that they were more intense than this current scandal at hand. Being wary of these things is a good thing to do, but completely blowing them out of proportion is a questionable act. As opposed to scandals such as Momo and the blue whale, Jonathan Galindo was only able to cause a fragment of the panic the other 2 did. You see, with Jonathan Galindo, they were recycling the same idea as the initial blue whale. Momo took a completely different approach, as it spread itself in ways that contrasted itself to blue whale. This was done by having these videos of Momo prompting to kill you, edited into unofficial YouTube videos of Peppa Pig and Fortnite videos. In my opinion, these videos were really garbage and poorly made, but nonetheless it did the intended damage. Profiles of Momo were also going around on WhatsApp trying to persuade their target to contact them through their mobile phone. It took a completely different approach, while the 50 tasks presumably remained the same. The thing that made Jonathan Galindo obvious to a majority of people is that they were using the exact same tactic to get people to do their bidding. They were simply directly messaging people into doing their bidding and threatening that they have their IP address and will come and find them. They also threatened that even if they do block them, they can still find their IP address. Remember this. It's important to know how getting someone's IP works. While I may not be 100% sure if it's the same case with Instagram, but on Discord and Twitter, the only ways people can find your IP address is by tricking you into clicking on an IP grabber, or if you outright tell them. There isn't any other way they can find your IP. It is simply a bluff if they tell you they can find your IP address even if you block them. Now, why is this a problem? You see, when Jonathan Galindo was going around, many people were trolling, and some were making garbage videos clearly intended for money. However, there were people attempting to warn the world about them, and while the intention may have been there, they didn't do their research, which was the main factor for why it was blown out of proportion in the first place. Allow me to reiterate, some people weren't doing their research and were spreading absolute garbage. While the intention of spreading the word may have been there, you should definitely do your research before making videos warning your fellow people about the danger that could inflict them. Making a video and basing it off a rumor is questionable and could tarnish your credibility completely. Many people knew what to do, but when people unfamiliar with the challenge are maybe hearing stuff like this,
and don't accept their DM request or don't answer. Don't even block them, just ignore them, or else you're gonna be stuck in a bad situation. Also, if you even have a thought of blocking them, don't block them because they will steal your IP address and possibly hunt you down and harm you. So this is a warning, please. That can also happen if you leave them on read.
it scares them, especially when the part where she says, "Don't even block them." Now, saying this is completely absurd, and it reflects upon a greater problem. There will always be people inexperienced with things like this. When the right information isn't given, it can lead to many problems. This is because when they hear things like "don't reply to them" and "don't block them," it gives off the impression that there is no escape when they message you, and they go around and spread this misinformation. It causes more and more people to become frightened and scared over nothing. It's like a virus. If it isn't contained, then it spreads like wildfire. Yes, there are people who don't believe it, but there is always going to be that one person who wants gossip or a reaction out of someone and will tell them the wrong information while overly exaggerating the information you initially gave. And while it may be true that there will always be someone like that, no matter what, there will always be the one person to debunk it. Wherever there's a villain, there is a hero. If you're willing to participate in warning others about danger, you should always do your research and not base it off an unconfirmed rumor going around. If you do your research, it will avoid many inconsistencies that may occur had you not done so. Let's conclude this then. So there's the video. I hope you all enjoyed. At the time of recording, I don't know how long this video is, and I don't know when I'm going to do another video like this, since I've got some other things I want to work on, and hopefully upload soon. If you want to read updates and release dates for my videos and other projects, you can look in the description. Well, I've said all there is needed to be said, so I'm gonna go and die now, and hopefully you can all join me for my resurrection, which is my next video. I'll see you all later. Goodbye.